So Powell is here because of the 1902 Newlands Act, also known as the Reclamation Act, which
Golly bum. I'm glad hospital beds aren't like this anymore. There was only $1 button and it's a $1. Nothing more than that. Welcome to the channel of the Roving Veterans.
I'm Rob.
And I'm Bethany.
And don't forget about our dog, the Traveling Maverick.
We chose our name because we RV, and we're also both military veterans.
We bought our first camper in 2020 and been full-time ever since.
All right, y'all, let's visit Powell, Wyoming. All right, so my chiropractor the whole time we've been seeing the Cody area has been in Powell. And I haven't really done anything in Powell except for the interpretive center from World War II. So today, while I'm here, I'm just going to check out the Homesteader Museum. It says that it's free of charge and donations are accepted. So let's go see what this is about. Talk about some old slot machines, y'all. Look at this. Jackpot is $25 for back then. Can you imagine? $25 is the jackpot. Today you'll see like some of them with like anywhere from thousands to tens of thousands. These jackpots only pay $12. Wow, how cool is that? Those are old. Look at this tiny little potty seat.
So Powell is here because of the 1902 Newlands Act, also known as the Reclamation Act, which simply means reclaiming the land through irrigation. So I'm going to show you this panel over here. In 1904, the U.S. Geological Society came through and developed the Shoshone Project. It wasn't called the U.S. Bureau of Reclamation at that time, but they developed a project, and it all starts 6 miles west of Cody with the Buffalo Bill Dam. There's a better picture up here for the perspective. This is an older picture because now you drive through 3 tunnels to go there, but that's the older.
That is really neat because we have been through there and we did the dam a couple weeks ago.
So their philosophy was, if we put a dam in the canyon, can we trap enough snow melt behind it to then release it through the Shoshone River? And then there's all of these dams and diversions, again, this panel summarized, to bring the water to the mountain desert. Because we only get 6 to 10 inches of precipitation a year.
It's crazy.
So to get people attracted to sagebrush land, they did homesteading. But when I say homesteading, everybody thinks about the Abraham Lincoln Homesteading Act. So with the Reclamation Acts, and after the Civil War, the promise of 40 acres and a mule was a big thing. They kind of knew that if you had that, you could self-sustain. So with that in mind, they developed pre-plotted homestead plots.
Okay.
So this map is going to become very important now. I also should tell you, because I got sidetracked.
You're good.
See, I wasn't standing in my spot. There's a 3.5-mile underground tunnel here that was dug that diverts the Garland Canal that you see outside of our highway. Right over here, that Garland Canal. So that's where the water's coming from, is there. Okay. Between Ralston and Garland, towns 5 miles in each direction, the first division was Garland Division. The dam wasn't completed until 1910, but they had that Corbett Dam and this tunnel, which brought the Garland Canal in 1907. Powell was not a town until 1909, so they planned on it becoming a town. So they did 40-acre plots, 60-acre plots, and 80-acre plots. So the U.S. Bureau of Reclamation office was across the street. And what you would do to be a homesteader is you put your name into a lottery, like this picture here, and they just drew your name, and you would settle for whatever plot you were given.
Okay.
You had 5 years to prove up, which simply means I can start clearing the land, building a home, raising livestock, starting to make the land productive. You paid taxes on it, but at the end of the 5 years, it was yours to keep or sell if you were like, I'm over it. Our second division is the Franny Division. So our canal goes this way. The Franny Canal goes like this up into Montana and back down.
Okay.
1917, 3 drawings, 80-acre plots. During this time, what was happening was we had a lot of people who'd never even understood irrigation or what it was for. The U.S. Bureau of Reclamation set up a training station And then the other problem was there's no natural humus in our soil to absorb the water, so it bogged. It created these boggy areas. So when you're driving around this area and you see white on top of the soil, that's the alkali that was brought up from that water being stagnant on top of the ground.
That's interesting.
Since then, they have a tiling system underground to keep the groundwater down, and they did some changing of the laterals and canals. Okay. Our third division is the Willwood Division, which simply means south of the Shoshone River towards the McCullough Peaks that you'll see on your right if you're coming over from Cody. People in town will still tell you they live on the Willwood. That's what they're referring to. It's just south of the Shoshone River there.
Okay.
Okay. 80-acre plots, 3 drawings. Hart Mountain Division was supposed to be 37, but historically we know nationwide farming is failing, stock market crashes, droughts, the dirty 30s, and then World War II. During World War II, the Western United States incarcerated Japanese Americans in camps.
We went to that a couple weeks ago.
I love it when people say that, because I can just tell you my highlights of it. So because they had this vast land in the middle of nowhere, they put in an incarceree camp at the base of Hart Mountain. I encourage people to go to the museum like yourself. I would say because it's such a great way to visually understand it.
Right.
At the base of Hart Mountain and behind barbed wire, they incarcerated over 14,000 Japanese Americans. To put that into perspective, in Wyoming, it was the 3rd largest city at that time, was the Hart Mountain camp. So the Hart Mountain incarcerees finished digging the Hart Mountain Canal. They were farmers from the West Coast. They grew their own food, etc. I mean, they just were there. In November of 45, I stress this part because I think it's forgotten sometimes. When they sent the Japanese away in 45, they didn't return to anything. The government had confiscated all of their farms and lands. There might have been a handful of people who somebody took over their farm and they returned, but they were homeless after the war. Horrible part of our history.
Right.
And I'm glad that there's an institute out there now that is telling that story. So in 46, tragedy, good news is we're going to finish homesteading. So they divided Hart Mountain Division into 3 plots. In order to draw a homestead, you had to be a war veteran, World War I or II. And they had all of their 80 acres marked with a little plaque that had a number on it. Same process, but if you were the first one drawn and you'd been out here, you're like, I really love number 17. You had a choice, but as you got down the list, you settled.
Yeah.
The final drawing was held in September of 1949. The paperwork was completed by March of 1950. Then they still had the 5 to 7 years to prove up. So we were one of the first reclamation projects in the nation, and probably one of the last to be completed because we could go into the 50s in the lower 48. Everything in the museum is from a homesteading family, the garden spot of Wyoming, and the town of Powell. So on our back door, in the corner, it's a diamond. You can't see it through the movie projector, but you're going to go down a ramp. There are 2 homestead houses back there. My favorite thing is the white homestead house. It's similar to railroad type housing because it's got a little box top. It's the Beaver homestead because you had the bean mill. So it was probably from right about here, 1913. There's a cabin out there that's from Hart Mountains to the 40s. Whole back museum full of farm implements and tools and blacksmithing stuff. In our gallery right now, our temporary exhibit, I worked with a Northwest College student, McCabe Brown, who wanted to do an exhibit, and he chose to talk about the CCC, the Civil Conservation Corps, as they were stationed outside of town here and how they helped the Bureau of Reclamation dig some of the canals during the Willwood in 1939-38. And he was from Massachusetts. His perspective on coming to the Wild West, it's just great to read his letters. So look around. If you have any questions, just please
I do have a question. What happens if they didn't prove themselves? And what was proving themselves? What did that entail?
Prove up?
Yeah, prove up. What does that mean?
It just meant, it's simply put, I can remove the sagebrush from my land.
Okay, they just improved it.
Improve it in
Improve the
some
property.
way.
Okay. That's what I've always wondered, but I've never looked it up. So
yeah, it's a vast. This is considered a home back then. Just like a little shack, like right here. I have a house. I'm clearing the land. I'm raising cattle. I'm doing something productive on my 80 acres.
Okay. Good information. I think that's the only question I have. I have a sewing machine. They only had this. How about that headpiece from the Native American treasures spot? Wow, look at those. Wow. That took some hands. Man, that took time. Now, these are huge fossils. That is, you can't see because there's a glass in the way, but that thing is, that one is bigger than my hand. Things I've never seen. I wouldn't have wanted to encounter that animal for sure. Man, look at all of these. Look at that face mask from back in the day. How about that? Man, hasn't technology come a long way in 100 years? Because this is 105 years old. Look at that. Ain't that crazy? 105 years old. Got an old school breathalyzer test. But the crazy thing, this is only 1963. That is not that long ago. This was the tube back in the day. But still, 1959 is still not that long ago. Oh, I rode one of these in my life. One that looked similar anyway. My beaters are a lot better than those. I'm glad I was born when I was. And then there's their electric ones, and they started getting electrified. Old waffle irons. I just think it's really neat that everything in this museum is things that came from people who homesteaded this area. I think this is like Land O'Lakes pasteurized processed cheese. Anything similar to Velveeta now? Old school iron. Man, those were a lot bigger back in the day.
Who was that? What now?
Not gonna lie, I feel like I've sat in stuff very similar to this when I was a kid. That's quite the stove. What about an old school cash register? Old school cash register, huh? There was only $1 button, and it's a $1. Nothing more than that. Now this one must be newer, because this one moves up to $5. One would have been somewhere crazier big, Because it's got a $90 on there, but it's still no 100. Still no button for a 100. This one is from the 1920s. Oof, chromatic. I would just say that was yikes. Electrotherapy instrument. So do you think that's like shock therapy? So this little thing would tell you how much your baby weighs when it came out the womb. I guess not many babies were over 14 pounds, huh? Golly bum. I'm glad hospital beds aren't like this anymore. They're definitely a lot softer. Man, the amount of times I say I'm glad I was born when I was. My gosh. That don't look the most comfortable either. Want to go to the dentist office? Yikes, if you thought you were scared of the dentist today, Rob. Man. Well, this is some OG chaps. Woolies. So what do you think? You think this is for the winter? And this is for the summer? Or do you think it goes the other way? Or do you think it matters? So this is the American Revolution banner. I had to zoom in to see it. So this is what you get baptized in. This is what you wear whenever you have your first communion or Lord's Supper, I suppose. And this is your wedding dress. I will say, in my time, though, I didn't really wear anything special or fancy. We don't, to do communion in 2025. Well, I guess it probably depends on your denomination, but I don't. Alright, so if you're looking at something to do in Powell, go see the Heart Mountain Interpretive Center. Come to this Homesteader Museum. The interpretive site, if you do the museum, you have a fee. If you just want to see the outside of the internment camps for the Japanese, you can just walk around outside. But you could totally make a whole day in Powell if you wanted to. There's also some restaurants here in town. Check out that taco bus. That was really cool. Back in the car and gonna see if I can find anything along the way back to Cody. If not, Cody it is.
Thanks for watching another episode of us here on the Roving Vets. We post videos every Tuesday, and when we have time, we throw you a bonus episode on Friday or Saturday. As a full-time RV channel, I know we have something that's up your alley on our page, so make sure you subscribe and check out where we go again next week. Until next time.